what is your reaction to In the Heights? Have y'all seen In the Heights at all?
Let me talk.
Okay, let's start. Let's start with you.
Let's start with me.
Let's start with you.
First of all, I have plans. I haven't seen it yet, and I have plans to see it this weekend.
Why don't you break down first what In the Heights is for people who haven't watched it or aren't familiar yet?
First of all, how do you not know? No, In the Heights is a musical. It was a Broadway musical. I think it came out about 2008. It was Lin-Manuel Miranda's break prior to Hamilton, and it's a story on a couple of days in Washington Heights, and just kind of like it's supposed to sort of be a spotlight on life in a diaspora neighborhood, and how like being a diaspora, being Latin American in the U.S., kind of just like what life is like. And it's supposed to just be like that. I love the musical. I'm sorry, like I don't care what anybody says. That is if I'm depressed, you just turn on Piragua and I will be singing it full volume. I got a great tenor voice apparently. I love that. Like get me to sing right now and I'll go.
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Karaoke
I love it. But and I haven't seen the movie yet. I have plans to see it with a good friend of mine this weekend because he and I went to the same, like we were in the play together a few years ago. Like it's a thing. It's like the crux of our friendship. But number one, people have talked a lot about kind of like how it doesn't really truly represent Washington Heights or really any sort of like Caribbean Latin American neighborhood, because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be Washington Heights, Dominican. And I think nowadays, I'm not from New York, but I know nowadays it's a bit more mixed, I guess, with different nationalities. But still, the culture is Dominican. It's Black. It's Puerto Rican, and like it's there's that issue. There's the other issue where, and this is something that like Lin-Manuel Miranda kind of is just like that typical, just like, oh, like AOC is the best, and we just gotta like be a state, and that's it. And we're done. And because we have more of us in the media now, then we're all good. And yes, it's wonderful to see a story of ours represented. Yes, it can be used as a tool to kind of like inspire somebody. And that can be for one, like, and at an individual level, that might be what sort of makes you start looking into your own history. And maybe that will lead you to reading about your history more in depth. And that could lead you down a decolonial path, but not necessarily. The kind of like picture, cookie cutter, really cute, like we're all dancing and stuff like that. It's great, but it doesn't talk like, and being proud of who you are is great and it's important. But we should also talk about like, why are we here in the first place? Yes, be proud of who you are, but and yes, like we contribute because we're awesome. We contribute no matter where we go. We there's like a really good line in the play and probably in the movie itself where it's like from Puerto Rico to Santo Domingo, wherever we go, we rep our people. The opening line is just like, I hang my flag up on display. It reminds me that I came from miles away. It invokes the emotions of La Lucha. It invokes the pride and the kind of like subconscious rage that you feel from being in the diaspora, from suffering from racism, suffering from poverty, suffering because you're not in your own land. But why are you not in your own land? Is because of, the history, the years and years and years of colonial history through the US, France, Britain, Spain, the years of enslavement, the continued rape of our land. And it doesn't stop, and it is not solved because we are in the media a little bit more. It is not solved because AOC can pronounce our names properly. It's not. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Congratulations, but just because you can say it right doesn't mean, like, just because you are proud, Dique, about being Puerto Rican or about being Dominican or about being whoever, doesn't mean you're really proud. Because if you were proud, you would be fighting for your people's liberation, true liberation. And not just for some, oh, yeah, like our GDP is high. Great, your GDP is high, but who's dying as a result? Yeah. What earth is dying? What animal is dying? What peoples and cultures are dying? Who is being displaced because of it? And Logan Paul, some rich dude, is in is in, Dorado or Trujillo Alto or Rincon, but how many people from Rincon tenían que ir, because of all the policies that happened. So
yeah,
that is my feelings. And also the person who plays Vanessa totally is not the vibe of Vanessa at all. And I'm going to be mad about it the whole damn film because Vanessa is not that. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to do a whole stream at some point about In the Heights. And I actually grew up in the Heights. It's funny because my family was one of the few Honduran families in Washington Heights, but I grew up with a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. And the biggest thing, I haven't seen it yet, but the biggest thing is like every Puerto Rican, Dominican family that I grew up with, a lot of them were brown, black, and there was almost zero black and brown representation of Boricuas and Dominicanos. And I was just mad confused by that, but that's a whole nother conversation we could do. But Comrade, Libre, I don't know if you've seen it, but your reaction to In the Heights, because for me, the reason I ask is because I feel like all this crazy shit is going on in Puerto Rico and the DR as well. And I feel like every once in a while, the imperialist media puts out these kind of things to kind of pacify, to be like, look, let's forget about this hardship. Let's celebrate our culture. Let's enjoy, your reaction to this, and just to wrap up the media war as part of Borikén independence.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to give a quick shout out to JSALPPR. That's a media resource you all can follow. That's Libre Protest Against Fuera Luma, and Bandera Roja is a socialist outlet. In terms of In the Heights, in the 2019 protests, Lin-Manuel Miranda showed his ass. And I don't fucks with him. And I'm just be honest. The reality is, what we have to understand is there's an article out by Devin Springer, right? Every art is political inherently, right? So in creating art, you're taking a political position. Like you just shared, Comrade, right? They just dropped In the Heights conveniently. There are massacres, genocides. There are things happening in La República Dominicana and Borikén. They're trying to distract the diaspora. And they're not doing a really good job of it because, like, in Turtle Island, we have folks that ain't with the shits. Like, they're going to call Dominicans out. They're going to call Boricuas out when they're doing anti-black shit, which this seems like it is. So to answer your question, I haven't watched it, but from a political standpoint, what we have to understand is that Lin-Manuel Miranda and his father helped and lobbied on behalf of Promesa, which is the fiscal control board that the U.S. appoints to tell us how we as Boricuas have to pay back our debt. So Lin-Manuel Miranda can go fuck himself, along with all his liberal, super filthy rich people that are gusanos, that are selling out our own people, that was supporting Rosello when the pueblo was out in the streets demanding Ricky renuncia. And, he's probably talking with his buddy Ricky right now because Ricky is in Washington, asking for statehood, saying that, like, lying to people, saying that we are asking for statehood. We ain't asking for no statehood. Sorry. We asking for independence. It's the only thing that we can use to move forward. People are moving more, they're less disillusioned. And Boricuas in the island, like, they're less disillusioned than in the diaspora. And so our job is to enlighten the diaspora so that we know the responsibility that we hold to our people back in our country to make sure that they don't take our land from us. And we also got to support. We got to go back to our islands, and we have to make sure that we're fighting. So, yeah, In the Heights is a political statement, and it's not a socialist one. It's not in favor of communism, so that means it's in favor of colonizing. And so people can consume it as they want. Like, I agree with the arts. I just understand everything is political, especially art. And when I do my poetry, that shit is communist. Okay, It's communist poetry. It's working class poetry. It is not imperialist poetry. It's not meant to oppress nobody.
Right.
So.
Most definitely, Comrade. And we're going to wrap up with just one last comment from Compañera Mercedes.
I got really excited just now when you were talking. So I think, again, going off from being the diaspora, so many of us, especially when you're second, third, fourth, whatever generation, I think so many of us, we long for the homeland. And because of that, we like kind of strive to prove our Latinidad. We strive to be like as culturally relevant as possible. But our job as the diaspora isn't just to be more Dominican, more Mexican, more Nicaraguan, whatever. It isn't to dance better. Our job in the diaspora isn't to speak the Spanish better. It's nice because, you know, communicate with your people, but that's not the job of the diaspora. The job of the diaspora is to remember why we're here, to educate ourselves, to deeply educate ourselves, to take our understanding of white supremacy and racism and how the West operates and how it affects our people and how they view our people. Our job is to take all of that, to take the benefits of being in the belly of the beast and bring it back to our people. Like you're saying, connect, you know, go back. That's our job. Our job isn't to watch in the heights or to be in the heights. Our job is to help our people.